Combine the dream come true of being a dad with the dream to be of entrepreneurship. Join Joel Lewis as he interviews successful entrepreneur dads sharing how they made it work from the start. This is Startup Dad HQ.
Hey, welcome to Startup Dad Headquarters, where we're exploring the intersection between fatherhood, entrepreneurship, and life. And today's Startup Dads backstage, I am super excited to have on the show Patrick Conlon. Patrick, Patrick, Patrick is joining us from Northern Ireland. Patrick is married and has two young children aged 3 and 6 months. He owns a women's brick and mortar retail shoe store called shoe-for-ric. That's S-H.
Yeah.
Yeah, shoe-for-ric.com. Also based in Northern Ireland. But get this, Patrick also sells all his shoes online on his web store. Bam! I love that because every business, which I've been mentioning multiple times throughout these interviews, should have an online presence. So Patrick is absolutely killing it. That's not all. Patrick has a small team that manages the day-to-day operations of the shoe store. And during the rest of the time, Patrick spends most of the time consulting for other businesses as a multi-channel e-commerce specialist. Startup Dads, I know you're going to get excited about this interview because Patrick helps companies set up their Amazon, eBay, and website selling to maximize sales. We all need that in our business. There is so much more to Patrick's bio, including his next venture, starting his own podcast, A Man After My Own Heart. Selling Online Today is the name of the podcast, which I can't wait to check out and dive into. So, Patrick, welcome to Startup Dad Headquarters. We're really excited to have you on today.
Thank you, Joel. That was really too kind. You made me sound really good.
Awesome. Thank you. And, Patrick, I shared a little bit about you. There's so much more we're going to dive into your Startup Dad journey. There's so much that you're doing, and I'm really excited to get into it. But before that, tell us what's really exciting you about your business today.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, the shoe shop, shoe-for-ric.com, which has a bricks and mortar presence in one of the towns here in Northern Ireland, also has its accompanying website. But what really excites me is the fact that I've been helping other businesses really get their online strategy into shape in a serious way. I'm finding the general procedure within small businesses in Northern Ireland anyway would be that they've probably spent a couple of $1,000s on their first website. They've been wooed by the local web designer who says to them, "Yeah, you're not selling online. You're not selling online. This is terrible," and they're almost scaremongered into getting something up and running. And they spend a couple of grand, a couple of $1,000s doing it, and then they don't get any sales because obviously just a normal web designer will just want to design the website, and then after that it's up to you. So a lot of the guys might get a little disheartened and think, "Oh, that doesn't work for me." Well, if you one of the hardest things to sell online would probably be women's shoes and handbags because, between sizes and not fitting and
Right.
sending them back and forth. Even though in the US you've got a market leader there with Zappos, in the UK certainly a lot of people will be saying, "Oh, I prefer to go in store." So sometimes you get business owners that'll say, "Nah, it won't work for me," when really it will. And sometimes then I just restarted with them putting their stuff on Amazon, putting their stuff on eBay to start. Then they get some sales, they start to build up confidence, and then they build a website which will synchronize everything together. So it certainly is a mindset for them, and hopefully I can help them through that and explain. A lot of my work now is actually explaining the from A to Z what needs to be done, how they need to do it, depending on what budget they want to work with. You know, a lot of these people just don't know where to start. There's information coming at them from all sides.
Right. Yeah, the online world definitely could be very, I don't know if complex is the right word, but very scary, right? When you don't know what you're doing, what's going on. There's so many different things. And you're right. So many, people are told, get an online presence, create a website, and then what? And basically the website just sits there, it's static. There's no blog, there's no content being put on there, and nobody visits it. So we're definitely really excited to talk about what you do with these companies and getting into your Startup Dad journey. But before we dive deep into that and into your journey, we have to take care of some important business. And I'd like to kick off the first segment of our show with this quote: "No other success can compensate for failure in the home." Patrick, would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. As I, on many occasions, would remind my good wife, who needs copious amounts of patience with me, at times I would say to her, "Darling, it's all for you anyway. I'm doing this all for us. So at the end of the day, if you're happy, I'm happy."
Right, right. Awesome. So let's bring up the beautiful family photos that you shared with us. You have a very beautiful family, wonderful pictures, which you told me you took yourself, which is amazing. But share with us who's in the photos and what's going on. I know you have your 3-year-old and 6-month-old in here, so let us know a little bit more about your family.
Yes. Well, the one on my right, which is the one where I'm in it, that was taken by another photographer a couple of years ago, and baby Owen, whom you see us holding, is actually the 3-year-old now. I suppose that was when he was perhaps a year and a half or a year old. He's also then just shaded out in the background when you see Nolan kissing our new baby, which is called Lauren, and there's a photo of her above. So Lauren's the 6-month-old, that's a girl, and then it's a little boy in the other photo, and his name is Owen. So yeah, really, really proud of that. Don't deserve it, but hey, listen, God must be looking down on me and giving me some sort of goodwill gestures.
Nice. And we talked before we hit broadcast, and you shared with me that you and your wife waited a while to start having children, which is, it's a different approach, right? But hopefully you guys enjoyed having no children in the house before bringing them in, because I know my life is all sorts of craziness right now with a 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And maybe sometimes we wish that we might have waited a little bit longer, but we're having fun.
Well, I suppose just to clarify that, it was more that I was traveling and working abroad, so I didn't marry until I was about 36.
Right.
So I think we only waited a year or two once we were married before we started having kids. So it was more the fact that I married later. Well, later, it's getting more and more common to marry just a little later. So I suppose 36 would have been, but then I was traveling and studying abroad until I was 30. So I really didn't have the chance to delve into that, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it probably came just at the right time.
Yeah. Awesome. Patrick, tell us, what does fatherhood mean to you? You have a son, you have a daughter, you have all these other responsibilities. What when you sum it down for us, with the children just arriving, what does that mean to you, that responsibility?
Well, without getting too theoretical and keeping it real, as they would say, for me, anytime I'm interacting with my kids, I'm very much trying to do the things that I think will serve them later on. Whether that works or not is to be seen, but I really try to interact with them when I'm playing with them, when I'm whatever, teaching them lessons or spending time with them, trying to always think, you know, down the line he has to really be able to do this, or he has to have a good spirit of work, or he has to be friendly with everyone and have manners and things like that. So I'm very much thinking of habit creation that will help him down the line.
Yeah, it's huge responsibility, and you're basically trying to forecast the things, the actions that you take right now. How is that going to impact their behavior? How that's going to impact how they treat other people and kind of live in society? So definitely a lot of responsibilities, and I could definitely connect with, you know, every moment you spend with them, you're trying to wonder, am I doing the right things? So absolutely. So how do you balance between the family and the business, right? So you have the shoe store, which sounds like you have some awesome employees or some awesome contractors that are taking care of that side of things, and at the same time you're selling things online. You have the other side of the business, where you're selling things online. How are you balancing those three things?
Well, the shoe shop in itself, yeah, as you say, I've got a good team of girls that run that on a day-to-day basis in store, so I don't need to physically be there on a day-to-day basis unless everyone gets sick at the same time. Then I might have to step in, but touch wood, thankfully they've been okay that way. And the online side of the business, well, the stock is held in the shoe store, and the online business, they also run it from there, but I can also control and operate stuff from my home office. So I do have a garage, or a garage as it's called in America, converted into a lovely office, which I'm sitting in right now. And I kind of would do all my consultancy work from here, and even have clients come here to meet with me from other businesses when I'm not on site, which every day is less and less. I try to do the work from home, because you ultimately can be even more effective when you're going into the bricks and mortar businesses and helping them. You know, you're hoping they have a good internet connection. You're hoping that the staff are there. You're hoping that everything's working properly. So I enjoy working from home, and then that has the added advantage that I can help out Nolene in the mornings when the kids are getting up and we're trying to feed one and take care of the other and get him ready for kindergarten or nursery school. And so she's still off at the moment on maternity leave, as they call it here, so we're having the chance to spend a bit more time together. But we're managing the best. I just try to, you know, during the day, if I pop in for a cup of coffee, I go in and say hello to them and spend a couple of minutes, but try to keep it fairly brief. Otherwise, he'd have me by the arm and into the playroom, and I'd never get out.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking about helping out around the house, can you share with us one chore that you do around the house that is not traditionally considered a man chore? Right?
My wife, if she was in the background, would burst out laughing right now and say, "What? Joel, he doesn't do anything around the house."
Oh no.
No. What do I do that's not considered a man thing?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes I'd bath the kids. Sometimes I'd actually be in the bath with them.
Yeah.
That kind of makes getting soaked not an option. So sometimes I'll do that, and it gives Nolene a chance to have a few minutes to rest up a bit.
Yeah.
Traditionally, I would do ironing every now and again. I would wash dishes. Would they have been traditionally the man's job? Probably not.
No.
Do I change bums? Yeah, I would have. Obviously, with Owen, a lot more. With he's out of nappies now, or diapers as they're called over there.
Right.
Um, and the rest is just the traditional, I would do the gardens and cut my own grass and all
Throw,
that type of thing.
throw,
So
throw out the trash.
yeah. Oh yeah, I have to do all of that. She'll never do any of that sort of thing.
That's right.
But she
What
says, "Well, I do everything else, so you can do that."
right? What do you call diapers there?
Nappies.
Nappies?
Yeah,
Interesting. I never
yeah.
heard that. Awesome. Cool, cool. So we're now going into the next segment of our show. I like to call this the True Startup Dad story. And with that said, and with this being Startup Dad headquarters, it's time we talk about your start. So please take us back to the early stages of your Startup Dad journey, Patrick.
From the dad's perspective or from the business perspective?
Yeah, let's from a business perspective, and then we'll tie those two things together when the children started to appear.
Well, yeah, up until I was 30, as I said, I was working abroad. So I was kind of the marketing director for a private language academies that were based in Spain, and they would have targeted private schools to try and get Spanish kids to study for a full year in Mexico or in Dublin or in the United States in Wisconsin. So it was my job to market to those families and schools and directors and all that type of thing. So when I came back home to Ireland, it was always my idea to start to get into marketing in some shape or form.
Mm.
So that would have been around 2003, 2004. So while I was starting to build up, at that stage it was big, the local SEO optimization on a local level. So if someone were to put in, I don't know, plumbers in Belfast, well, you wanted to be on the first page of Google. It has gone way past that now over the last 5 years. We're way past that. But back in the day, that was the thing to try and get at least onto the top of Google in
Yeah.
natural search engine rankings. So I had bought into a franchise package that they had a system where that would work very easily for businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So that was how I got to know all of the businesses regionally, because they were all signed up to this particular package with me, and from there it developed. And when I first started, then I was obviously just teaching Spanish tuition on the side to families who owned homes in Spanish-speaking countries. So as a private service, and that was keeping the cash flow going while I was getting the business up and running.
Mm.
Because I would be a fluent Spanish speaker, obviously, having worked and taught in Spain. So, so that kind of moved it along for me from 2003 for 4 or 5 years. And when I was out with the business owners, I was obviously seeing their needs and adapting accordingly. I also started a women's fashion magazine that used to be stocked in the local hotels, so that tourists that were coming to the area, were staying in the hotels, could see the local businesses in their best light and then come in and shop. And that was working well too, up until perhaps the crash of 2007, 2008, whenever businesses started to suffer and their advertising budgets went down. So that was a lot of work with a small team and a lot of overheads, but I kind of left that to the side just because of the advertising revenue model base. And I then, while I was out doing that, saw a need for, in my own local town, an actual niche for a nice type of shoe store, which didn't exist. So I opened it, always with the idea to sell the goods online and to use that to get from the high street onto Amazon Street or onto eBay Street. And immediately did that from the beginning and worked on that and really delved into it and became very knowledgeable in those areas, and at the same time was helping some of those businesses that I'd worked with in the past to get their online operation up and running, to the point where the local business bodies and regional business bodies used to recommend me then to the businesses, which sometimes they would give funding towards their making that step from bricks and mortar to the online world. So I've really specialized in that over the last few years, and basically that's what I do on a day-to-day basis now. I help businesses just get their whole online operation where they physically sell goods online and really get it done seriously so that they actually do sell and it's not just an afterthought.
Okay, awesome. So we want to take it back a couple of years. I know, again, this is, like you said, mentioned you weren't a dad yet, but we want to talk about that leap that you took. It sounds like you were a marketing director, and then you decided to eventually, while you were in Spain, and you decided to move back to Ireland,
Yeah.
and that's where you left that position. And
Yes.
and then you started your first business at that point in time, 2003, 2004.
Yes, well, it was more, yes, it was a self-employed role as a Spanish tutor. I started literally to get some cash into the flowing quickly, and I was even temping in schools as a school teacher because I was qualified doing all of that.
And at the same time, you bought into the SEO franchise.
Yes, because even from Spain, my goal was I was going to start my own marketing business.
Okay.
And that was very current and relevant at the time, and because it was almost a business in a box, and it was really all down to good sales skills, that kind of took off, and that gave me an opportunity to get in with the business. And now, in hindsight, looking back, it was quite an achievement because I was competing with all the local newspapers, with all the local radio stations, and I had everyone paying packages in and around $100 a month upwards.
Wow.
Just to be on this platform. And there were obviously fees going out for franchise fees and whatnot, but it was that old adage that you were getting the knowledge of someone who had gone there before it in another part of the world, and you were applying it in your own region. So that gave me then the capital to be able to move on to larger projects.
So the woman fashion magazine?
Yes.
Okay. Nice.
And that was, and I was just, I had the franchise about 5 years, and that was when I was in my relationship with my wife, and I remember we got married, we had our honeymoon, as I said, in New York City, in Las Vegas, and in San Diego, and I remember being in Vegas and in San Diego in the hotels there. And I was picking up all the magazines, and I actually saw a very good one over in San Diego, and I said, I could do this back in Ireland. And I picked up all the brochures from Las Vegas where they would tell you what's on and what's happening, and the Cirque du Soleil and all of these different people that were doing their concerts and whatnot. And I thought, I could also do that. So I brought those ideas back with me and adapted them to my marketplace and launched them on a local level. I did booklets also, like voucher booklets, which are big in America, but at the time weren't that big in Ireland, where you see them a lot in New York City, where you get these little voucher books and head up out to the out of town retail outlets. So all of that, I was just soaking it all in, taking the best ideas from America and bringing them back and saying, I'm going to give this a go. And it was successful. The magazine was very high end, and that may have been its downfall because of the recession. It was targeting people who had lots of money. It was in the 5-star hotels and whatnot. So,
okay. So you had this. You started off with the Spanish teaching business to kind of bring money in. Then you built the SEO. You bought into the SEO franchise, which sounded like it was subscription based. So you had passive income coming in to some degree. And then from there, you launched the women's fashion magazine, and that was based on the way that was supported was through advertising in the magazine.
Yes, and sales of the magazine in the stores, but I was giving copies to the hotels for free. So yes, it was an advertising-based model, which was lucrative, but was an awful lot of work because you were physically going around all the businesses, getting their ads together, proofing them out. It was a lot of work. No, the rates were very good, but it wasn't sustainable given the fact that the world recession hit and businesses then pulled back because they weren't getting as much business. So a lot of the brands that were targeting people with money had to lay off a little.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then, so now, then from there, you realized that there was a missing. I think you said that I know you said you wanted to get from High Street to Amazon Street with the female retail shoe store. You said that there was a missing. What did you? I mean, when you say there was missing, like there was no shoe stores.
Well, I was going, no, there were, but I was going around all the other towns regionally, and I was seeing that each of these little towns had a very fashion-based ladies' shoe store, and I thought in the town where I lived, there were just the traditional family shoe stores, not very fashionable. So that was the niche in the market. Because at the same time, I was also giving marketing advice to other businesses who own bricks and mortar stores, and I kind of felt I'm giving all the knowledge that I have to other businesses, and really I should just start up my own retail store to have that marketplace too. So having done that, then it obviously gave me a lot more credibility with the businesses, because they're saying, well, this guy isn't just coming in and waffling on to us about stuff that consultants seem to always be talking about, but he actually has done it himself. And that really helps.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah, because you're teaching them everything you've applied to be successful in your business online.
Yes, and I'm currently doing it. So they're also, when I'm in helping other businesses, they know that I'm not just talking about theory, but that I actually have gone through all the steps, and I'm going through all the steps that they need to go through.
Right. Now, Patrick, in any of these businesses, what did you do in terms of validation? Was there any kind of validation steps that you took to, especially with the brick and mortar one, right? To just say, I'm going to spend this amount of capital, open up a brick and mortar female store to compete with some of these smaller mom and pop shops?
Well, I because I had the magazine, I was going around all the other towns, and I was talking to shoe store owners. So I was asking them, what's it like, and how much should I be paying for rent, and how much should I be paying for rates, and how much should I be paying for staff, and how much does it cost to set up? So I was that was my market research, really, was while I was doing the magazine. I was able to get all that information together, and ultimately it was a big risk, but I started in a smaller store, and now I've moved to a bigger store.
Nice.
Which I've had to do just by, you've got to give it a year or two and see how it goes. But definitely without the online selling, I wouldn't have probably survived on the high street.
Right. Nice.
Because you're selling to people all over the world, as opposed to just selling in your own town.
Now, when did you launch Sell Online? When did you officially launch that business?
Officially selling online today, more in about the last year.
Okay.
But I've had big contracts where businesses have brought me in, and I've been spending a lot of time in their businesses. So in the regional area, I've been working with 2 or 3 big businesses that might have a $10 million turnover, and they're asking me to get the whole thing set up from start to finish, synchronizing it with their till systems, all training their staff, all of that type of thing. It's only now that I'm starting to say, well, I can help businesses virtually by having strategy sessions with them online through Skype, and just go through all the steps that they need to do and help them decide how much money they're even going to spend. They don't even have to spend it with me necessarily. I'll just say, well, these are the options. This is the way Amazon works. This is the way eBay works. Start here, get them set up, then synchronize it with their website. The important thing for businesses that have stock is that it all has to be synchronized. People think they can only sell on Amazon. Well, no, there might be 30% of people that only shop on Amazon, but there may be another 30% that only shop on eBay. And then there'll be other people that only shop on websites.
Right.
So you need to be where the people are.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
So you need to get into these marketplaces because people have become millionaires just by selling on Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a whole strategy on how to do that, and that's what I will help the businesses with ultimately.
Okay. So now, take us to the point where Sell Online really just launched. I mean, you've been doing the work, but you launched it last year. So Owen was already born, right? So Owen is 3 years old. Lauren is now 6 months old. How
Mhm.
has life changed for you with the children present? I'm sure your wife is very comfortable with you being an entrepreneur. You've been successful with the shoe business, but now you're taking to this whole nother aspect of your business, and it's taking up more of your time. So how has things changed with the introduction of children?
Well, it's really the time factor more than anything, in as much as if I had the magazine, I might before they were born, I was able to perhaps go out on the road for a whole week and go around businesses in different states, stay in the hotels, and come back the next day. But now with kids, and Nolene could even sometimes have come with me and stayed in a hotel while I was out working. But you really can't do that with young children. So we're very much based at home,
Mm,
and all that had to change. So it's really the time factor that, and you got to take that into consideration uh, about spending that quality time with the kids.
mm,
So it certainly is a big change from that perspective, but a nice change. It's not something that you lament about. More than anything, it gives you a real purpose. Well, you want to have the best life for your kids. You want to have the freedom to spend more time with them, to know that you don't necessarily always have to order chicken when you go out to a restaurant, as one of those books would say.
right.
And it means then, as they're growing up, if they need stuff or they're having school trips and stuff, that you want to be able to afford to send them on it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say? So it sounded like from sharing your journey, you decided to leave the marketing director role. Where did the inspiration or the desire to go into business yourself come from? You know,
Well, because I ultimately, when I was working in Spain, I was working with an awful lot of business owners who were sending their kids abroad to study English. So that was the first thing. I also had worked in America as a project during the summer, and I dealt with a lot of business owners in Philadelphia and New York. So I was able to see their lifestyles and see the freedom that they had working for themselves,
mhm,
and had thought, well, I need to get on that train, as opposed to being stuck with just working for someone else, because you're very restricted then, and trapped in a certain sense. I mean, but you're never going to really succeed unless you are working for yourself. Succeed, I mean, success is a very subjective word, but in the sense that the sky's the limit when you work for yourself. If you're working for another business, no matter how hard you work, you may just arrive at a certain level and not be able to go any further.
yeah, absolutely. And
But that's not to say that working for others isn't. It doesn't have as advantages. When I have to sit at the end of the month and do the payroll and pay the rent and pay everything, and you see all these thousands of dollars going out of your account, you think, oh dear, where's
right,
my big job now?
right, and then you have to also, right, you have to wear all the different hats: the marketing, the strategy, the planning, the
Yeah.
payroll, HR, every aspect. Especially with your business, you have, I've had entrepreneur dads who do have one or two full-time employees. I'm imagining that you have multiple full-time employees working
Mhm.
at your store, so you have to manage all that as well. And we're definitely going to go in the next segment. We're going to start talking about health insurance, so we definitely want to get into that. It might be a little bit different over in Ireland, probably not as big of a concern as it is here in the States, but we'll jump into that. The last question before we jump into the next segment is, what does entrepreneurship mean to you? I think you gave us a bit of that in your last response, but if you could summarize it to us in a couple of words, what does entrepreneurship really mean to you?
Entrepreneurship for me would mean definitely growth, freedom, just excitement, new challenges, just being able to know that your business can continue to grow, and you ultimately also affect more lives too.
Yeah.
So it just is a totally different ballgame. And if you know, it's great in the summertime in Ireland when you know we don't get that much good weather, but whenever you do get some good weather, you can just say, "Hey, I'll take the day off and go and play golf with my friends."
Right.
And you know, you can't really do that when you're working for someone else. And some of my friends do work for other people, and they have to then book their days off in advance, and it's just that. I mean, my wife has a full-time job as a social worker when she's off at the moment on maternity leave, so she has the stable income, whereas I'm risking everything else.
Nice. So, Patrick, it's time for Real Dad's Real Talk. This is where we go deep and I ask a series of tough questions that we just can't skip over. Are you ready to dive in?
Yeah.
All right. So, I want to start with doubt and fear, specifically from a perspective of a father and a provider. You just talked about risking it all. Tell us about a doubt or fear that you struggle with, and how do you overcome that?
Well, the doubts and fears. The fear would obviously be that you don't get to spend enough time with your kids, or that when you're with them, you have one eye on them and one eye on your mobile phone and emails. So there's that constant battle to switch off and spend quality time with the kids when you are with them.
Yeah.
And that would be obviously a fear that I wouldn't want my kids growing up thinking, dad worked all the time. Now, my own dad worked all the time and I never held it against him. On the contrary, I grew up thinking he was a hardworking man.
Right.
As I've grown older, I've seen he also had his free time too. So that was good. But you obviously don't want, you see these movies about high-flying businessmen and their kids are rebelling against them because they never spent any time with them at all. I try to make sure that I built my first snowman with him there in this past winter. Everything's happening almost for the first time. So it's the first time he goes to school, the first time he goes and does this, the first time. And I try to be there for those moments.
Yeah.
Because he'll remember those things as he gets older, I suppose.
Yeah, that's definite. Definitely, I love that. And what has been the biggest failure that you've had along your journey, and what lesson did you learn from that?
Along my entrepreneurial journey or my fatherhood journey?
Oh, great point. Yeah. Let's get it from the entrepreneur journey, and if you
Yeah.
have for
No,
fatherhood.
I can't think of any in the dad arena, other than just perhaps not doing things as promptly as I should. Like if Nolene says bring out the trash, she means bring it out. Don't wait until after the ball game or.
Yeah.
But from biggest failure from an entrepreneur's point of view, well, probably not getting a good enough team around me fast enough in the magazine. I was doing everything
Mm,
myself and I had a few bad experiences with some salespeople, so it kind of didn't help my confidence by. So that was the fear. I probably didn't execute that idea properly in all its facets. Now I did in an awful lot of them, and there were other factors, but if I had to do it all again, I probably should have brought in a better sales team to help me when I first started.
yeah, definitely. Now, one of the biggest limiters keeping dads from taking action is private health insurance. What do you do to ensure that your family has adequate coverage?
Well, as you said, it is slightly different in the UK and Ireland. We do the public health service is actually quite good. So I don't know if that's what the whole Obamacare thing is. I don't know all the ins and outs, so I'll not go into it. But basically, in the UK and Ireland, the state pays for basic health insurance. So if you have any ailments at all, you can go to the hospitals and get properly cared for. Obviously, if you want to get immediate care and everything, you can go down the route of private health insurance, but you don't need that for your staff because they're pretty covered. You just have to make sure that they get the necessary leave to be able to attend to medical stuff.
Okay, so the state covers basic, and then if you want anything above and beyond that, you could get private health insurance on top of the basic?
Yes, you'll always have the basic. And the basic is very good. The basic is everything. So if you have to get, I don't know, if you break a leg, you'll get seen to immediately, and it won't cost anything.
Okay, so what does the private get you then?
Well, it means that if you I don't know, if you needed a hip replacement, for example, if you do it through the government health service, you might be on a waiting list and have to do it in a year's time. Whereas if you have private health insurance, you can get it done next week, but you pay for it.
Okay.
You'll eventually get seen to, but the waiting lists might be longer.
Gotcha.
For non-life-threatening situations.
And everybody pretty much has the basic health insurance.
Yes, everybody. And if you're not working, if you don't have a job, you get also free dentistry, and yeah. But I mean, I would be paying for my own dental care and that sort of thing. But there's also even more benefits for people who aren't working, which isn't the goal, obviously. But
right. So do you? I mean, so one of the big, like I mentioned, one of the reasons why a lot of people here in the States don't go into, or at least the excuse that I hear is private health insurance because it's very expensive here.
Well, how much is it?
Oh man, it can range because it depends on what you want for coverage. You could get most of the dads that I speak to. Currently, I still have insurance through my company, but most of the dads that I speak to, they say that they could be paying premiums where you're paying $600, $700 a month, and somewhere around up to $7,000 a year for coverage, and they pretty much just get the coverage for catastrophic injuries. They don't get it for the sniffles. They don't get it for like, oh, I need, I'm feeling sick, I'm gonna go to the hospital. It's only for major situations like a broken bone. So because
so if you're feeling really under the weather and you need to go to the doctor just because you think you may have a chest infection,
you pay out of pocket. They pay out of pocket at that point.
To go to the doctor also.
Yeah, then you would just pay out of the pocket. Basically, they do a high deductible plan, like a private HSA, where you put a lot of money into an account, and then they withdraw the money from the cash directly out of the account whenever you go to the doctor.
And how much would a basic visit to the doctor that lasts 20 minutes cost?
Oh man, it depends. I had a knee, my knee was hurting, and I had insurance at the time. This was a couple of years ago, and I was there for probably 30 minutes. The doctor checked my knee for really quick, and then I saw the bill come to the house. Even though it was paid for through the insurance, I saw the bill and it was $300. And this was years ago, so this was at least 10 years ago, so I'm sure it is a lot more expensive now, so it is a little crazy. But do you find, are there a lot more entrepreneurs where you are, because everyone has insurance?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of entrepreneurs. The private medical insurance, there's still a lot of people that are on it. Even people who work for other companies might take their own private insurance out. But I don't think that you'd be talking about $700 or $800 a month equivalent here. I like to think with $200 a month you could cover your whole family. So if any of them got ill, you could get seen to right away in a private scenario.
Yeah, I had one discussion with a guy who owns a car cleaning, like interior, exterior cleaning service, and he was telling me for him, his wife, and I think he had 3 kids. I think he was paying about 25,000 a year for the last, I don't know, for the last 15 years or something like that.
Wow,
I
that's a
don't.
lot of money. And
Yeah.
if you never use it, does that just disappear, or is it kept in some sort of fund?
If depending on what he has, the high deductible plan or the health HSA stays in your account and it kind of rolls over, so it stays in there, and when you use it, they withdraw from it. So basically, what you do is, if you're an entrepreneur here, is basically you got to put a large sum of money into an account, and you have to be prepared if there's something that's going to happen to be able to pay out of pocket.
Yeah, well, the UK, I mean, Ireland is a funny situation geographically because you've got Southern Ireland, which is part of the Eurozone, and then you've got Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK economy. So I'm based in the UK economy, and there that would be an issue always spoken about on the news about how the National Health Service run by the government is always under strain, and people are going to the hospital far too much when they don't need to for things that, and therefore people with real needs maybe not getting attended to, so the waiting lists are fairly big. So that's a political issue in all countries, I think, but it certainly is something which, if it disappeared totally and was moved on to private health insurance, would be very hard for a lot of people in the UK.
Yeah, I could imagine, especially having that system in place for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So Patrick, tell us, we talked about fatherhood and we talked about entrepreneurship. How do you see the intersection, especially as a new dad, right? How do you see the intersection between those two things?
Well, I think it's a good. I think if you're well enough organized, it can actually be a very fruitful thing for your kids to see. I mean, like my son will come out here to the office and he'll want to sit down at one of the computers and he'll want to turn it on and he'll want to press buttons because he sees dad doing that, and he'll want to talk on the phone or talk on the microphones and stuff. And that's pretty cool. I think that he sees that there's things happening and there's work happening. So as you say, really it is an art, I would say, to really be able to balance things. And there will be times that if I've worked an awful lot, I'll make sure that I'll take a longer period off and get away with the kids and spend time. That's the best times are when we're all together away from the house, almost on a day out or on a weekend away. So we just have to program those. But he's, I suppose if we talk about Owen, who's 3, he's a happy camper. So he's happy out around the garden. When dad's cutting the grass, he'll be out with his strimmer, his toy strimmer or his toy leaf blower, trying to help out. So it's nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, awesome. So we're now entering the final segment of the show. I like to call this the rapid fire handyman segment. This is where we quickly reach into your toolbox and you provide the Startup Dad community with some really useful tools. And the way we like to think about this segment is basically Owen and Lauren is both, well, Lauren is probably crying and Owen is, pulling at your leg saying, Daddy, I want to spend some time with you. So we want to fire through these questions so you can go spend some time with your family.
Okay.
All right. What is your number one time management hack or tool?
It would be my calendar, my whole appointment calendar on the MacBook.
Yeah. Nice. What's one personal habit that you believe attributes to your success as a father, husband, and entrepreneur?
I think enthusiasm is a big help. Being enthusiastic around the kids, and in business for that matter.
Mm. What's one way you manage your health?
I play golf.
Now, do you,
I try to play golf once a week in the summertime, which is 4 hours away, walking after a tiny ball, usually in among the hedges. Uh,
yeah.
and I also have have the setup for cycling, free cycling on a bike. So I would do a bit of that.
Yeah.
And with the kids, obviously, when you're playing with them, it's exercise too.
Right, right. Yeah, I was gonna ask you with the golf, are you walking or are you taking the caddy?
Oh no, I would walk I would walk, but the golf clubs would be on a motorized type
Yes.
attachment.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Awesome.
But yeah, I wouldn't be driving in a little golf buggy unless I were in a hot country where you couldn't,
All right.
where you need it. So no.
Uh, what's one book every startup dad should absolutely read?
Every startup dad. And funny, I did read one and I have it inside, and I forgot to actually go and get it because I just forgot that you were going to ask that question, and I actually don't. I must get. I'll email you the title of it because it was actually a funny book about a new dad and what it meant. It's from a journalist here in the UK, and I found it quite funny and upbeat, but at the same time had lots of lessons in it for the new dad. So I'll make sure that gets to you if that's okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that'd be perfect. Knowing what you know now, what's one thing you would have done differently?
In what, in business or in fatherhood?
Business.
What would I do differently? Well, I probably would have started quicker offering my services
Hmm.
online.
The
And there's lots of products I could put together for people that will save them loads of time in their online experience. So even some information products I would have liked to, by this stage, had one or two completed, but I'm working on them at the moment.
Okay, awesome. So Patrick, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My final question is a little bit long,
That's
but
okay.
it usually produces really powerful answers. And here it is. On the other side of this broadcast is a startup dad who at this point is fired up and ready to go. He's connected with your story and your journey, and he wants to take some action. But as soon as he closes the laptop and the phone, and next week he'll find himself in the day-to-day minutia of things. What would you say to that dad to inspire him beyond this broadcast?
I would tell him that you only live once,
Mhm.
and you don't want to be looking back in 10 years and saying, I could have done it back then, and I'm still waiting. I think
Mhm.
I read a book once, or one of these audio books, or one of the interviews where I think it was that book called Focus One or something like that, where he talks about a guy who interviews people that are dying and saying, what is the one thing that if you had the chance to go back and do that you wish you could have done? And a lot of them would talk about, spending more time with their family, doing the things that I wanted to do, not what people wanted me to do.
Mhm.
And I think it's never as bad as you think it's going to be,
Mhm.
and that's something to keep in mind. The worst thing, it won't all fall apart, which is the fear that people have about taking the step towards entrepreneurship. It won't be that bad. And you can always go back and get a job if it really does go that bad.
Right, right.
Does that
Awesome.
help?
Yeah, that was that was and that's what I love about doing these interviews is the passion that comes out with some of these answers, right? With the dads that are in the trenches that are experiencing it right now, you're able to relay, your feelings, or you could connect with the dads and express to them, your feelings, and then tell them that, hey, it's better, it's not as bad as you think, like you said. Is the book you were mentioning, is it The One Thing by Gary Keller?
Well, yes, regarding that story.
Yes.
I think he's the guy that talks about one of his people a guy he worked with had interviewed people who were dying,
Yes.
and had asked them what their regrets were, what the one thing was that they'd like to do if they had the chance. I
Yeah.
read that many books. I don't half the time I don't remember which one I read it in.
No worries. Yeah, when you mentioned that story, I was able to remember. I actually didn't. I just finished that book not too long ago, so that's how I was able to remember it myself.
Oh, good.
So, Patrick, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your startup dad journey, and for a truly inspiring episode. Please take a moment, share with us where the startup dads can connect with you. We talked about your the online ask component, or the website for your shoe business, but what's the website for selling online?
It's info@sellingonlinetoday.com.
Okay.
Info@sellingonlinetoday.com, or sellingonlinetoday.com is the website, obviously.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. And then where else can we find? Facebook, Twitter?
Twitter would be Patrick_Conlon, Conlon. I'm just starting out on Twitter, so it's very easy to connect with me that way. But I mean, if I'm good with email too, so and I answer all the emails myself, so there's no worry there.
And you work with dads in the States too, right? I mean, you work with clients, not dads.
Yeah, from a strategy consultancy point of view, absolutely. I do. Yeah.
Awesome. Patrick, thank you again.
Joel, thank you very much, and all the best, and I'll catch you later.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey Startup Dads, take the next step right now and download your free guide called 9 Apps Every Startup Dad Should Have in His Toolbox. It's only available at StartupDadHQ.com/free gift. Again, that's StartupDadHQ.com/free gift. So go download it now, and we'll see you next time on Startup Dad HQ.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Thank
Is
you.
that all right?
Yeah, that went great, and I love the conversation. I'm probably gonna take part of it out from the health insurance piece, but I love having that conversation with you. But it'll be on the video. I don't edit the video. The video stays raw, uncut, and it goes right on my website the way it is. But the audio piece, I'll probably cut out some of that dialogue just to keep it a shorter episode.
Yeah. Listen, don't edit whatever you want. It's okay. I mean, that's fine. I hope I didn't tire you out too much.
No, man, no. It was a great conversation. I enjoyed I enjoyed doing this. So
And when would this episode be? Well, I suppose you'll let me know anyway. But when do you envisage it going live?
yeah, this one will probably go live the third week in March.
And how many people do you have downloading it at the moment?
Right now, I don't have so total downloads. I get like about 600 per episode, so I don't have like a huge,
Yeah, still, that's 600 people.
Yeah, so I don't have a well, I don't know if you know about the direct download trick. Have you heard about that?
Nope.
No, you haven't heard. Okay, so you haven't have you started doing interviews for your podcast yet?
I have, but I haven't put them live yet. I haven't launched them on iTunes.
Oh no.